KSJE and the Farmington Public Library present Cuentos Hahne and Tales.
Hello and welcome to Cuentos Hahne and Tales. My name is Melanie Leeson and I am a Youth Services Technician at the Farmington Public Library. Today I will be reading several books from the Little Golden Books collection at the Farmington Public Library. The first book is called The Little Red Caboose by Marian Potter. The little red caboose always came last. First came the big black engine, puffing and chuffing. Then came the box cars, then the oil cars, then the coal cars, then the flat cars. Sometimes they were switched around in different ways, but the little red caboose always came last. Boys and girls waved at the big black engine. They listened to the box cars and the oil cars and the coal cars and the flat cars go clickety-clack. But by the time the little red caboose came along, the boys and girls were turning away because the little red caboose always came last. "Oh, smoke," said the little red caboose. "I wish I were a flat car, or a coal car, or an oil car, or a box car, so the boys and girls would wave at me. How I wish I were a big black engine, puffing and chuffing, way up at the front of the train. But I'm just the little old red caboose. Nobody cares for me." One day, the train started up the mountain. Up went the big black engine. Up went the box cars. Up went the oil cars. Up went the coal cars. Up went the flat cars. Up went the little red caboose. "Hang on tight, little caboose," called the flat car. "This is a long, tall mountain, and you are the last car on the train." "Don't I know it?" sighed the little red caboose. "Poor me." The little train went slower and slower and slower. Soon it was hardly moving. It looked as if that train could not get up the mountain. "Look out, little caboose," called the flat car. "The train is starting to slip back down this long, tall mountain." "Not if I can help it," said the little red caboose. And he slammed on his brakes, and he held tight to the tracks, and he kept that train from sliding down the mountain. Then, bump! The little red caboose felt something push him from behind. It was two big black engines. They pushed the train up to the top of the mountain. "We couldn't have done it," said the big black engines, "if it had not been for the little red caboose." Everyone cheered, and the little red caboose nearly burst with pride. Now, children wave at the big black engine and all the cars, but they save their biggest waves for the little red caboose, because the little red caboose saved the train. The next book I'm going to read is called The Train to Timbuktu by Margaret Wise Brown. Clickety-clack, clickety-clack. There was a big train, and clickety-clack, clickety-clack, clickety-clack. There was a very little train. They were on their way home to Timbuktu, and they had just left the town of Kalamazoo. Slam, bang, grease the engine, throw out the throttle and give it the gun. There was a big engineer, who drove the big engine, and slam, bang, grease the engine, throw out the throttle and give it the gun. There was a little engineer, who drove the little engine. When the big engine went through a tunnel, the big engineer blew his big whistle. Woo! When the little engine went through the tunnel, the little engineer blew his whistle. Whee! And clackety-clack, clickety-click. Throw out the throttle and give it the gun. Woo! Wee! Out from the big tunnel came the big engine with the big engineer, and the big coal car, and the big baggage car, and the big passenger car, and the big dining car, and the big sleeping car, and the little caboose. And then, out from the little tunnel, came the little engine with the little engineer, and a little coal car, and the little baggage car, and the little passenger car, and the little dining car, and the little sleeping car, and a little caboose. Clickety-click, clickety-click, clackety-clack, clackety-clack. Woo! Wee! That great big train and that little tiny train went roaring by. Then clackety-clack, clackety-clack. The big train came to a big bridge over a big river. And over the big bridge went the big engine, with the big engineer, and the big coal car, and the big baggage car, and the big passenger car, and the big dining car, and the big sleeping car, and the little caboose. Then, clickety-click, clickety-click, the little train came to a little bridge over a river, over a little river, and clickety-click, clickety-click, over the little bridge went the little engine, with the little engineer, and the little coal car, and the little baggage car, and the little passenger car, and the little dining car, and the little sleeping car, and the little caboose. And clickety-click, clickety-click, clackety-clack, clackety-clack, pocketa, 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 picketa, 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 picketa. The trains rolled on towards Timbuktu, far down the track from Kalamazoo, until far away against the sky there was a great big railroad station, and far away against the sky there was a little railroad station. Woo! Wee! As ringing their bells, dong, 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 ding, ding, ding. The great big train with a puff, 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 and that tiny little train with a piff, 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 came home to Timbuktu. And if you switch the names of the towns in the front of the book, you can get back to Kalamazoo. From Kalamazoo to Timbuktu, it's a long way down the track. And from Timbuktu to Kalamazoo, it's just as far to go back. From Timbuktu to Kalamazoo, from Kalamazoo and back, a long, long way, a long, long way, a long way down the track. From Kalamazoo to Timbuktu, from Timbuktu and back. The next book I'm going to read is called Tootle by Gertrude Crampton. Far, far to the west of everywhere is the village of Lower Trainswich. All the baby locomotives go there to learn to be big locomotives. The young locomotives steam up and down the tracks, trying to call out the long, sad toot of the big locomotives. But the best they can do is a little toodle. Lower Trainswich has a fine school for engines. There are lessons in whistle blowing, stopping for a red flag waving, puffing loudly when starting, coming around curves safely, screeching when stopping, and clicking and clacking over the rails. Of all the things that are taught in the Lower Trainswich School for locomotives, the most important is, of course, staying on the rails no matter what. The head of the school is an old engineer named Bill. Bill always tells the new locomotives that he will not be angry if they sometimes spill the soup pulling the diner, or if they turn the milk to butter now and then, but they will never, never be good trains unless they get 100 A+ in staying on the rails, no matter what. All baby engines work very hard to get 100 A+ in staying on the rails. After a few weeks, not one of the engines in the lower train switch school for trains would even think of getting off the rails, no matter what. Well, no matter what. One day, a new locomotive named Tootle came to school. Here is the finest baby I've seen since old 600, thought Bill. He patted the gleaming young locomotive and said, "How would you like to grow up to be the flyer between New York and Chicago?" "If a flyer goes very fast, I would like to be one," Tootle answered. "I love to go fast. Watch me." He raced around the roundhouse. "Good, good," said Bill. "You must study whistle-blowing, puffing loudly when starting, stopping for a red flag waving, and pulling the diner without spilling the soup. But most of all, you must study staying on the rails no matter what. Remember, you can't be a flyer unless you get 100 A+ in staying on the rails." Tootle promised that he would remember and that he would work very hard. He did, too. He even worked hard at stopping for a red flag waving. Tootle did not like these lessons at all. There was nothing a locomotive hates more than stopping. But Bill said that no locomotive ever kept going when he saw a red flag waving. One day while Tootle was practicing for his lesson in staying on the rails no matter what, a dreadful thing happened. He looked across the meadow he was running through and saw a fine, strong black horse. "Race you to the river," shouted the black horse, and kicked up his heels. Away went the horse. His black tail streamed out behind him, and his mane tossed in the wind. Oh, how he could run! "Here I go," said Tootle to himself. "If I'm going to be a flyer, I can't let a horse beat me," he puffed. "Everyone at school will laugh at me." His wheels turned so fast they were silver streaks. The cars lurched and bumped together. And just as Tootle was sure he could win, the tracks met a great curve. "Oh, whistle!" cried Tootle. "That horse will beat me now. He'll run straight while I take the great curve." Then the dreadful thing happened. After all that Bill had said about staying on the rails, no matter what, Tootle jumped off the tracks and raced alongside the black horse. The race ended in a tie. Both Tootle and the black horse were happy. They stood at the bank of the river and talked. "It's nice here in the meadows," Tootle said. When Tootle got back to school, he said nothing about leaving the rails. But he thought about it that night in the roundhouse. "Tomorrow I will work hard," decided Tootle. "I will not even think of leaving the rails, no matter what." And he did work hard. He practiced tootling so much that the mayor himself ran up the hill, his green coattails flapping, and said that everyone in the village had a headache. Would he please stop tootling? So Tootle was sent to practice staying on the rails, no matter what. As he came to the great curve, Tootle looked across the meadow. It was full of buttercups. "It's like a big yellow carpet. How I should like to play in them and hold one under my searchlight to see if I like butter," thought Tootle. But no, I am going to be a flyer, and I must practice staying on the rails, no matter what. Tootle clicked and clacked around the great curve. His wheels began to say over and over, "Do you like butter? Do you?" "I don't know," said Tootle crossly, "but I'm going to find out." He stopped much faster than any good flyer ever does, unless he is stopping for a red flag. He hopped off the tracks and bumped along the meadow to the yellow buttercups. "What fun!" said Tootle. And he danced around and around and held one of the buttercups under his searchlight. "I do like butter," cried Tootle. "I do." At last, the sun began to go down, and it was time to hurry to the roundhouse. That evening, while Chief Oiler was playing checkers with Old Bill, he said, "It's queer. I found grass between Tootle's front wheels today." "Said Bill. "There must be grass growing on the tracks." "Not on our tracks," said the day watchman, who spent his days watching the tracks and his nights watching Bill and Chief Oiler play checkers. Bill's face was stern. "Tootle knows he must get 100 A+ in staying on the rails no matter what, if he is going to be a flyer." The next day, Tootle played all day in the meadow. He watched a green frog and he made a daisy chain. He found a rain barrel and said softly, "Toot, toot," shouted the barrel. "Why, I sound like a flyer already," said Tootle. That night, First Assistant Oiler said that he had found a daisy in Tootle's bell. The day after that, the Second Assistant Oiler said that he had found hollyhock flowers floating in Tootle's 8 bowls of soup. And then the mayor himself said that he had seen Tootle chasing butterflies in the meadow. The mayor himself said that Tootle had looked very silly, too. Early one morning, Bill had a long talk with the mayor himself. When the mayor himself left the lower train switch school for locomotives, he laughed all the way to the village. "Bill's plan will surely put Tootle back on track," he chuckled. Bill ran from one store to the next, buying 10 yards of this and 20 yards of that, and all you have of the other. The chief oiler and the first, second, and third assistant oilers were hammering and sawing instead of oiling and polishing. And Tootle? Well, Tootle was in the meadow, watching the butterflies flying and wishing he could dip and soar as they did. Not a store in Lower Train Switch was open the next day, and not a person was at home. By the time the sun came up, every villager was hiding in the meadow along the tracks, and each of them had a red flag. It had taken all the red goods in Lower Train Switch and hard work by the oilers, but there was a red flag for everyone. Soon Tootle came tootling happily down the tracks. When he came to the meadow, he hopped off the tracks and rolled along the grass. Just as he was thinking what a beautiful day it was, a red flag poked up from the grass and waved hard. Tootle stopped, for every locomotive knows he must stop for a red flag waving. "I'll go another way," said Tootle. He turned to the left, and up came another waving red flag, this time from the middle of the buttercups. When he went to the right, there was another red flag waving. There were red flags waving from the buttercups, in the daisies, under the trees, near the bluebirds' nests, and even one behind the rain barrel. Of course, Tootle had to stop for each one, for locomotives must always stop for a red flag waving. "Red flags," muttered Tootle. "This meadow is full of red flags. How can I have any fun? Whenever I start, I have to stop. Why did I think this meadow was such a fine place? Why don't I ever see a green flag?" Just as tears were ready to slide out of his boiler, Tootle happened back over his coal car. On the track stood Bill, and in his hand was a big green flag. "Oh," said Tootle. He puffed up to Bill and stopped. "This is the place for me," said Tootle. "There is nothing but red flags for locomotives that get off their tracks." "Hooray!" shouted the people, and they jumped up from their hiding places. "Hooray for Tootle the flyer!" Now Tootle is a famous 2 miles a minute flyer. The young locomotives listen to his advice. Work hard, he tells them. Always remember to stop for a red flag waving. But most of all, stay on the rails no matter what. The last book I am going to read is called The Poky Little Puppy by Janette Sebring Lowrey. 5 little puppies dug a hole under the fence and went for a walk in the wide, wide world. Through the meadow they went, down the road, over the bridge, across the green grass, and up the hill, one right after the other. And when they got to the hill, they counted themselves. 1, 2, 3, 4. One little puppy wasn't there. Now where in the world is that poky little puppy, they wondered, for he certainly wasn't on the top of the hill. He wasn't going down the other side. The only thing they could see was a fuzzy caterpillar. He wasn't coming up this side. The only thing they could see was a quick green lizard. But when they looked down at the grassy place near the bottom of the hill, there he was, running round and round, his nose to the ground. "What is he doing?" the 4 little puppies asked one another, and down they went to see roly-poly, pell-mell, tumble-bumble, till they came to the green grass, and there they stopped short. "What in the world are you doing?" they asked. "I smelled something," said the poky little puppy. Then the 4 little puppies began to sniff, and they smelled it too. "Rice pudding," they said, and home they went as fast as they could go, over the bridge, up the road, through the meadow, and under the fence. And there, sure enough, was dinner waiting for them with rice pudding for dessert. But their mother was greatly displeased. "So you're the little puppies who dig holes under fences," she said. "No rice pudding tonight." And she made them go straight to bed. But the poky little puppy came home after everyone was sound asleep. He ate up the rice pudding and crawled into bed. The next morning, someone had filled the hole and put up a sign. The sign said, "Don't ever dig holes under this fence." But the 5 puppies dug a hole under the fence just the same and went for a walk in the wide, wide world. Through the meadow they went, down the road, over the bridge, across the green grass, and up the hill, 2 and 2. And when they got to the top of the hill, they counted themselves. 1, 2, 3, 4. One little puppy wasn't there. Now where in the world is that poky little puppy, they wondered, for he certainly wasn't at the top of the hill. He wasn't going down the other side. The only thing they could see going down was a big, black spider. He wasn't coming up this side. The only thing they could see coming up was a brown hawk toad. But when they looked down at the grassy place near the bottom of the hill, there was the poky little puppy, sitting still as a stone, with his head on one side and his ears cocked up. "What is he doing?" the 4 little puppies asked one another. And down they went to see roly-poly, pell-mell, tumble-bumble, till they came to the green grass, and they stopped short. "What in the world are you doing?" they asked. "I hear something," said the poky little puppy. The 4 little puppies listened, and they could hear it too. "Chocolate custard," they cried. "Someone is spooning it into our bowls." And home they went as fast as they could, over the bridge, up the road, through the meadow, and under the fence. And there, sure enough, was dinner waiting for them, with chocolate custard for dessert. But their mother was greatly displeased. "So you're the little puppies who will dig holes under fences. No chocolate custard tonight." And she made them go straight to bed. But the poky little puppy came home after everyone else was sound asleep, and he ate up all the chocolate custard and crawled into bed. The next morning, someone had filled the hole and put up a sign. The sign said, "Don't ever dig holes under this fence." But in spite of that, the 5 little puppies dug a hole under the fence and went for a walk in the wide, wide world. Through the meadow they went, down the road, over the bridge, across the green grass, and up the hill, 2 and 2. And when they got to the top of the hill, they counted themselves. 1 little puppy wasn't there. Now where in the world is that poky little puppy, they wondered, for he certainly wasn't on the top of the hill. He wasn't going down the other side. The only thing they could see going down was a little green grass. He wasn't coming up this side. The only thing they could see was a big grasshopper. But when they looked at the grassy place at the bottom of the hill, there he was, looking at something in the ground in front of him. "What is he doing?" the 4 little puppies asked one another. "What in the world are you doing?" they asked. "I see something," the poky little puppy said. The 4 puppies looked, and they could see it too. It was a red, ripe strawberry growing there in the grass. "Strawberry shortcake," they said. And home they went as fast as they could go, over the bridge, up the road, through the meadow, and under the fence. And sure enough, there was dinner waiting for them, with strawberry shortcake for dessert. But their mother said, "So you're the little puppies who dug that hole under the fence again. No strawberry shortcake for supper tonight." And she made them go straight to bed. But the 4 little puppies waited till they thought she was asleep, and then they slipped out, filled up the hole, and when they turned around, there was their mother watching them. "What good little puppies," she said. "Come have some strawberry shortcake." And this time, when the poky little puppy got home, he had to squeeze in through a wide place in the fence, and there were his 4 brothers and sisters licking the last crumbs from their saucer. "Dear me," said his mother, "what a pity you're so poky. Now the strawberry shortcake is all gone." So the poky little puppy had to go to bed without a single bite of shortcake, and he felt sorry for himself. And the next morning, someone had put up a sign that read, "No desserts ever, unless puppies never dig holes under this fence again." All of the books that I read today can be found in the Little Golden Book collection at the Farmington Public Library. Check out our library events calendar at www.infoway.org for more information about our upcoming events. Have a great day!
This has been Cuentos Hahne and Tales, presented by the Farmington Public Library and KSJE 90.9 FM.